I am Couch Coop and I review single player and local co-op video games. Every once in a while I put a film review out or a list. I'm a huge fan of the Alien series and this is the only way I could get this video uploaded off my phone was to put it onto Twitter. This is me freehand drawing. My daughter went to art school like myself and has this iPad that's nearly the size of a piece of paper, and it's also got that gruff screen and a pencil to go with it. She left it with me for a couple of hours. It was amazing. You can zoom in, you can cross-hatch on a minute level. The only thing that stopped me when I was using Deluxe Paint back in the late 90s was that mouse to screen transition with freehand drawing. Now you can just go for it. It blew my mind. Of about 9 or 10, I've been obsessed with Geiger or Giger's artwork, and I'm also a huge fan of the first two films. I do hold Alien 3 in quite high regard because, as with everything recently, it's all terrible. So older stuff gets stronger, and Alien 3 is one of them. You need to watch the assembly cut and read up on how Fincher had that massive nightmare with studio interference. I do put Prometheus and Covenant in their own separate section, and I hold Prometheus well above Covenant. It was really great to see Ridley get back into properly the directorial seat. Let's get started. Genuinely like that start, and we are going to be using a little bit of the Alien Isolation soundtrack in the background here. I'll talk about that game nearer the end of the video and some other recommendations of decent 9th gen Aliens games. Now, it would have been very easy for me to go on to all these explained Romulus ending, spell out the whole plot revealed to you video prior to doing this, but I didn't. I wanted it to be fresh. I only watched it last night. There was a few things I took away from that scene at the beginning. One of them was that the alien seemed to be inside a meteor, seemed to be cut out of some rock. Could have easily been the alien that fell out of the original spacecraft in the first film, and also we see a representation of that with the harpoon through it later on in the film we will get to. But they cut it out and its silhouette is revealed. Now, it's the type of alien that it is interesting. It's not Cameron's alien, i.e. the one with the rippled head. This is smooth. This is what they call Big Chap. This is the one from Alien 1, which makes me start thinking that they're trying to connect things. Anyways, that's quickly gone, forgotten. We are introduced to our main characters, female protagonist, and we have our android very quickly revealed of his status, and it's interesting. He's got a sense of humor. This technically is the Blade Runner universe. We do see some external shots. We are taken through her life, what's going on, all these hours that she's owed, and she's basically persuaded to jump off planet because they found this damn great abandoned that no one has spotted yet, or security for the planet itself have not brought in, huge station, which is Romulus. You can tell the writing is already sagging under the weight. It does all feel a little bit rushed past you, and then you're introduced to some new characters who are extremely unlikable. Everybody's got to get in a ship and go to a secluded location, otherwise we can't have ourselves an alien film, and that's what transpires. There's also some out and out anti-android hate from one of the crew members who does his comeuppance, but there's immediate disconnect with who we're introduced to. I didn't gel with any of them. We also get an introduction to a video game. Now, I'm struggling with this. The whole rear projection green screen tech analog theme is running through this. They've tried to keep a hold of that original Alien 1 aesthetic, which they've pulled off to a certain degree, but none of it makes sense on a writing level because you wouldn't have these backward screens and mechanics around interstellar travel. This is why the Prometheus world is so feasible. However, the devil's advocate in me says they're low power, they're needed touch screens and high def plasma. Anything above 4K will drain too much power from the ships and equipment, so they've got to have green screen rear projection. That's my answer. It's not just crappy fan appeasement. Her motivations for getting on this ship are also rushed past you. You get this hilarious scene where she spots a canary because they're going down the mines. Her parents died in a mine, and that's her alternative to going to Romulus. And so they get someone to walk past with a canary, and she's like, oh, I remember. I don't want to get the black lung, father. Just before we go any further, I want to make something clear. I'm the last of the 3 of my mates to watch this, and the first 2 were like, it's awful, terrible. They were just like, don't even bother. And I'm like, how can I not bother with a new Alien film, for God's sakes? It's been part of my life for nearly 30 years. So I'm like really ready for this to be terrible at every given stage, and this front quarter isn't, and it doesn't look cheap. That's one thing I want to hammer home. Requiem just looks terrible. Obviously Prometheus and Covenant look like $600 million. That's just Fassbender's salary. Anyway, we're off to see the wizard, and racist android matey smokes what looks to be a joint in one drag. I don't know why that scene is even played out. Is it trying to show us there's more oxygen in the atmosphere? Does gravity affect how quickly you can smoke a joint? The whole thing baffled me. So that was one of the first more obvious references for me. That was an almost identical shot to the fuselage, the landing gear getting caught as it raises up in Alien 1. Great scene. We didn't need to see it twice. And that is one thing I want to cover at this stage in the review. I now know exactly how Star Wars fans feel when they throw in these stupid retro references to go, do you remember this? This is okay because we've referred to X, Y, and Z. You need more than that to prop up your IP. Then there's another uber confusing section where we pop out of the atmosphere, right? It was almost like a reverse of the drop-in in Aliens. And everyone's like, oh, there's the rings of Saturn. We're near Saturn. Like, they didn't know they were on this planet, and the planet looks to be a moon and extremely volcanic and inhabitable. Not too sure how she's got to do 24,000 hours on a frickin' volcano. We do get our first half-decent alien tunnel though at this stage in the film, and we have the obligatory sphincter tunnel entrance and closing that we saw in Alien 1, and very few mentions of them ever since, apart from Isolation. It has them at just about every given turn. And we sort of get our plot laid out here. This is a big station that's hurtling towards a meteor belt that's going around Saturn. There's something of value on it. It's a better thing to do than all of that work back on the volcano. So everyone's like, yeah, let's take the risk. They don't know what's on there, and it's quite a cool setup because they've got new gear, new equipment. Again, back to that analog theme, they're keeping quite loyal. Now, something else to remember is that a friggin' gun doesn't go off in this movie until 1 hour 20 minutes in. You even get an introduction to a new form of pulse rifle, we'll get to it, but you are blue-balled, and you're also waiting a good 20 minutes before anything of interest happens after that initial intro. And I knew that intro was there to just satisfy a few of the hardcore fans to say, yeah, don't worry, there's loads of stuff in this film, just give us another 25 minutes of plot filler and then we'll start with the alien stuff. So they find this decommissioned android, and you're not going to believe who it is. And I avoided all reviews and extended trailers of this film, so I had no idea that they were going to CGI the original android from Alien 1 in, and it kind of doesn't work. It's a bit scary, to be honest, but they've got the fact that he's a broken android to fall back on. It was so strange to see it, and I feel they could have come up with something a little fresher than dragging that poor bugger out. We will come back to that because things start literally hotting up massively. They find this room that is cordoned off, that get trapped in it. They have to give the android a special chip to upgrade him. Green screen, android chips, okay. He takes ages to install, any COD game post 2010. But in the meantime, the facehuggers are released, and they come out in these like little popcorn packs. They've got like these temperature readings on them. This again is a reference to the Hive. I think it's a dry heat sergeant. There was that line of heat when they went down into the egg chamber in the original film. So pretty cool stuff. One of the sellers for the making of this film, for me, was that directors and all the creative designers were very big on prosthetics. They were like, we're not going to use CGI facehuggers, we're going to build a model, we're going to take it very seriously, just like Cameron did, and just like they have done in many of the other films. The facehugger needs to be an actual physical prosthetic model, I feel, for it to properly work, and they've kind of achieved that. This is all obviously kicking off whilst the android's updating, and it's one of the more incredible scenes of the entire film. It's him frozen, all these reds around the water, the fact that the room's been flooded with face huggers, and it's your first real introduction to pure chaos. I think it could have been peak Romulus, and we're 35 minutes into the film. Somebody obviously gets violated, we have our first infection, and then the crew kind of gets split up. There's some skullduggery, and the ship that they arrived on, a bunch of them make it on and lock themselves in and go to leave, and then you've got the android and the main characters left on the space station. The infected gets on that ship that leaves, and thereon ensues quite a hilarious scene of her kicking the joystick around as she's going through the writhes of pain that are associated with the birth of a chestbuster. There is also some great foreshadowing with a piece of equipment which is like a mobile x-ray, and as soon as she finds it you're like, yep, I know what they're going to be using that for. But they use it in real time, so they show the alien coming out in a sort of x-ray weird projection light behind the body setup, and also the alien doesn't like spray out or come out with any major force. It's undramatic exit, but there's some really strange stuff coming up. We also get this massive chunk of lore from Ash, and it's quite confusing because he is referring to what he was saying in Alien 1 about the organism, but there's also some black goo stuff in there. I think they've kind of bitten off more than they can chew with how much of that backstory they're going with, and it pans up to the ceiling to show you an alien with a harpoon through it, which is supposed to make you reference the first film. At this point I was confused, and I'm into the damn series. We then start getting hints that that upgrade that the android guy had have made him like super corporate Weyland-Yutani evil, and that his prime directive, his motivations have changed. She stops it and makes him say it, and it's all sort of coming out now that he's not on their side and trying to perpetuate the black goo towards them, which is introduced as these like serum injection things. And you have this weird backstory with a rat that was dead and then it got repaired, and then the camera pans back gremlin style, and of course the rat's changed into this disgusting Geiger abomination, which is also dead. Massive waste. Huge alien gig. A rat would not have gone amiss. We then get treated to one of the best effects in the entire film, and what this is the original alien going through its chrysalis stage. So the one that came out of the pilot lady is now growing up, and it's showing that they go in these pods, which hasn't really been produced on film before. My mates just called it a giant fanny. I think there's a bit more to it than that, and it drips out acid blood on android racist matey, which was just deserves. So we're an hour in now. There's a pregnant girl trapped on that spaceship with an alien. We've got evil android and the main protagonist still on the station. Time's running out, i.e. they're heading towards that asteroid belt. We haven't seen a single bullet being fired yet. Everyone loves using this freezing spray to freeze everything. They managed to get a face hugger off with it earlier, and it just seems to be the go-to weapon on this space station. No, bullets are. So all the face huggers get out on the Romulus station. I think this is android matey that pushed the button, and then finally we get introduced to the gun, and yes, it is the Hicks Ripley scene. He is patronisingly mansplaining how guns work to the poor protagonist, who clearly gets it straight away, and she's going to girl boss it towards the end of the film. We all know this. So we're like coming up to Act 3 now. Something big desperately needs to happen, and it kind of does. We get the Reebok trainer reference of her going down a ladder, but we have this anti-gravity, kill loads of aliens with low gravity, and then switch the gravity on, so all of that acid blood falls down and actually punctures hull, causing more problems and vacuums. And we also have the pregnant lady trapped on her own, and she's just been taken by that other alien that was with her on the craft. So she is now embedded in the hive but still alive, so we've got that bit of juice to come. And sticking on that reference point, evil android matey has an epiphany, and that thing is ripped out of his neck. He comes back good, and he rescues the main protagonist, and he says, "Get away from her, you bitch." Yes, do you remember? I love the film now. Changes everything, doesn't? And then we've got that damn finale. If the whole thing had been knocked off, the last 15 minutes weren't in this. If it didn't go full resurrection with like a humanoid birth and it looking a little bit like a retarded engineer and being as frightening as a low budget Slenderman special effect, I wouldn't be so angry. It's an alien film. could have made an actual alien. That rat could have been warmed up and done a better job. We then have an obligatory getting changed out of a space suit into another one scene that was in Alien 1, and if you hold those two up against each other, you'll realise how far we've come with modern cinema. What, you mean you can't perv over Sigourney in a pair of tiny white knickers? No, I can't, and I'm glad that film was made, to be fair. And what have slashers ever had to do with hot girls in their underwear? The two are basically going hand in hand, and that's what Alien 1 is. Space slasher, one of the best ever made. So what happened with Alien Romulus then? Well, I think it started with best intentions, and that front 40 minutes is not horrendous. It's actually quite a good watch. As soon as you start cramming in too much stuff, and I think this is where Covenant made the mistake, you either go full Alien or you go full Black Goo. One of the Black Horse comics is called Rogue, and it talks about an alpha male alien, like an equivalent to a queen. So it's not a big drone. This thing is after everything that's alive. That could have been an angle. Having a humanoid hybrid is a mistake Resurrection already made. So I'm amazed they did that twice. What Aliens games would I recommend? Good recent ones, I would say Isolation, obviously. That's still only on the PlayStation 4 at those specs. Annoyingly, a sequel has been mentioned, however. Dark Descent is a really good turn-based strategy game. I will annotate and link. And of course you've got Scorn, which isn't officially an Aliens game, but it's all of that amazing Giga-style art inside a puzzler, can you believe? And then finally, and this is my big announcement, Alien Fireteam Elite is absolutely awesome as a third-person Aliens-based shooter. There's also a bit of that Prometheus lore in there. Just after playing Space Marine 2, I actually haven't put a review of the 5 version of Fireteam Elite out on the channel. So that's next up, because I'm all hyped with the old Alien syndrome. I was Couch Coop. I would love some feedback on this video and my other film material. It performs worse than my gaming content, which I didn't think was physically possible. So come back to me with any pointers in that direction. I will see you down there.